The rapture is a very touchy subject, and culturally speaking, I find it to be absolutely fascinating. What I mean by that is that it seems to be mocked by a wide variety of people, by those that hate Christianity, which I'm only half joking when I say that gives the idea some credibility to me, but it is also mocked by certain Christians. I've done several studies on the harpazo, or rapture, over the past 2 years to decide what I thought about it, and have listened to many Christian theories about why it should be overlooked. The first thing that I found was that many Christians who righteously tell other Christians that they have been deceived by the rapture teaching are usually citing a reason that they themselves have failed to fact-check. I am speaking of Margaret MacDonald. I can't tell you how many times this has been served up to me as the sole reason to ignore the rapture. They say that Margaret MacDonald had a satanically inspired vision which introduced the idea of the pre-tribulation rapture, and that this was later promulgated by John Nelson Darby. The first thing you should do when presented with this information is to ask the person to provide a specific quote from her vision that they feel is speaking of a pre-tribulation rapture. They will 9.5 times out of 10, if they are honest, tell you that they haven't actually read what it says. They have simply believed someone who had told them this story, which I would add is exactly what they are accusing everyone else of doing. The fact is that MacDonald's vision doesn't speak at all of a pre-tribulation rapture. If anything, it is speaking of a post-tribulation rapture, but it's hard to even get that from the vision because the timing of the rapture in her vision is very ambiguous, but it is definitely not pre-tribulation. And I find this more like a well-placed lie that has caused many people to simply stop studying the matter. Also, I have found her connections to John Darby are themselves contrived. Many people say that the pre-tribulation or pre-wrath rapture wasn't taught until the early 1700s, and therefore it couldn't be true. To that I would say that the early church did indeed teach it, up until the time when the Catholic Church took over. To me, the obvious reason that the teachings emerged again around the 1700s was because that was when the Bible, after well over 1,000 years of being unavailable to the common man, became widely read and studied again. All kinds of other true biblical teachings emerged at that same time that had been lost since the early days, because people were able to read it for themselves. So to say that it wasn't taught during the 1,000+ years that the Catholic Church kept people from reading the Bible isn't a very good explanation. It's like saying that we shouldn't believe the rapture because the Catholic Church didn't teach it. It is not my intention in this video to present a detailed case for any particular version of the rapture. As one famous scholar said, the reason that there is a debate is because there is a debate, meaning that a reasonable case can be made for different positions, but all generally seem to believe that a rapture of some sort will indeed happen. They differ on the time, however. I have determined in my own experience that anyone who claims that the rapture must be pre, post, mid, or pre-wrath and excludes the possibility of any other explanation hasn't really done their homework. Because, as convinced as I am of my position, I still have to give deep consideration to other passages that suggest to me that there is something that we are all missing. I see this as a clue, and I want to propose a theory about why there is so much speculation. I think that just as the angel told Daniel to seal up the words of his prophecy until the time of the end, I think it's possible that the rapture timing is similarly sealed up, intentionally difficult to discern perfectly. I often get the impression that there is a spiritual padlock on the question of the timing. I would suggest that this padlock is not for us, but for Satan. I have always considered that the rapture must be, if true, Satan's biggest fear. Satan is a serious student of Bible prophecy, you can bet, and I know he has spent some time considering this event, because unless he comes up with a way to explain it away to non-believers, he runs the risk of his entire scheme crashing down. After all, if people saw all the Christians taken away, they would be inclined to believe that the rapture was real and that Christianity was true, which is an unacceptable arrangement for Satan. If he knew the exact details of the timing, he could precisely plan for it, much like he did with knowing the prophecy of the birth of the Messiah and his attempts to kill all the firstborn, or many similar instances in the Bible that a Bible student could point you to. But if he only knows the general time, he, like us, can't plan as well for it. Nevertheless, I believe that he, like us, should know the general time. I want to propose a series of theories about the rapture and the deceptions that I think will surround it. People often discuss Project Bluebeam and similar theories, but I think that it's going to be a little more complicated than that. First, I want to suggest that Satan is going to kill two birds with one stone, so to speak, with his rapture explanation. I think the primary mission is to explain away this event to keep people from seeing the truth of it. But I think that he can use this explanation to get a lot more done for his ultimate goal. The same explanation can be used to unite the world to a single religion, while simultaneously giving a global reason to persecute Christians. After much thought, I am convinced, for several reasons, that this explanation will be aliens, along with certain aspects of the 2012 propaganda. And I think we are all being prepared for this in several ways. What if there was an event like a rapture? I tend to think it will be accompanied by a massive earthquake, like in the sixth seal in the book of Revelation, a la David Lowe's book, Earthquake Resurrection. But that's besides the point. What if aliens immediately showed up, claiming responsibility for the rapture? Many of us would be so shocked we would be inclined to believe anything that they said. Now, before you think that I've gone completely mad, please understand that I've spent a great deal of time looking into testimonies of people about their encounters with these quote-unquote aliens, and I'm convinced that they are extra-dimensional entities, and that this is a spiritual phenomena with very physical components. And perhaps most interestingly is that they are very much subject to the authority of Jesus Christ. Please look into the description section for a huge list of references to this fact. So this brings up 2 points. One, that many people who have alien abduction experiences, and interestingly other experiences like channeling and other types of communication with this realm, report a similar preoccupation that these beings seem to have. Remember, this is reported by non-Christians who usually have no clue that they are actually communicating with demons who have a very specific agenda. They are usually told by the entities that they are talking to aliens or angels or light beings or ascended masters or whatever the person's paradigm allows. But the interesting thing is that they all say the entities are telling them to tell people about a coming cleansing of the earth, a ridding of the earth of those that are not ready for the new age. They are told that they will be taken away to be made ready to rejoin society. Very interesting, however, is that a certain percentage of the experiencers reverse it and say that those that will be taken away are the ones that are prepared for the new age, for instance, the new age gurus, etc. In any case, I find the fact that the spiritual world being so preoccupied with getting humans to tell other humans this story, which amounts to getting them ready to explain a rapture-like event, is fascinating, and I think it's a big clue. The other aspect is that if it were true that these entities had figured out a way to gain physical bodies, which I'm still not convinced of, but were still subject to the authority of Jesus, which I am sure of, see description section, they would automatically find no spiritual resistance if they were to present themselves right after all the Christians just left. Sure, there would be many instant conversions after the rapture, but it would take some time for them to build up understanding of their spiritual powers over the demonic. After all, many Christians today don't even believe that they have any particular power. It is like it is said in the Bible, speaking of the church in the last days, they will have a form of godliness, but deny the power thereof. Can you imagine if, say, a major war was stopped in mid-war by alien ships who said that they had come to stop us from destroying ourselves, and they also told us that they were our creators via genetic engineering? This would cause a few things to happen. One, despite the fact that alien existence would in no way disprove the Bible, as the Bible makes no claim to exclusivity as far as the planet Earth is concerned, people will believe it thanks to a few decades-long propaganda campaign from the Rockefeller Foundation and movies like Contact with Jodie Foster. They will begin a new religion based on this, and it will create kind of a world patriotism, which so many movies have depicted. This would overnight create not just a desire, but a demand for a world government. At that point, it would be very easy to use propaganda to paint Christians as the terrorists, as they did in the movie Contact, because they will be said to have been proven wrong. It will also be the pinnacle of a massive psychological campaign which has consistently reiterated that all wars are caused by religion, which is a very important lie that a great deal of money and effort has gone into propagating. See my video, Religious Wars, Fact or Fiction. This will cause the new united religious system to see the Christians as everything that was wrong with the old world, and it will allow for the justification of a genocide in that system.